Yeah. I joked and said, yeah,
I'm
when
sure
I came
he
back
does.
in after being outside for a while.
Just
yeah,
some
I had curls. I walked in.
schedule, nothing really
So
important.
how's Phoenix?
Good.
I was there twice today.
Some
You were
changes to the
twice.
ADO, some minor changes.
They took 2 loads.
Lots
Oh,
of
wow.
449 miles.
No, it's always interesting, always something that comes up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What are you selling?
I'm not selling anything.
He's transporting.
Just
Basco.
What is it?
Lower Buckeye.
Yeah, I think
just
Buckeye.
west of 51st.
Good evening, senor.
Good evening.
Well, that's a pretty fancy-gancy hat. Makes you look very sophisticated.
Who was that
Indiana
Australian
Jones.
guy that
Indiana Jones.
Crocodile Gun?
I liked him. He was the one with the knife.
Yeah, I like him.
Where'd I grow up?
Wasn't that great?
Oh yeah.
He goes, this is a knife.
But I'm saying,
This is not.
He was saying,
like Trevor Brown High
probably
School.
looks like construction in
Hi,
19.
Carol. How you doing, Carol? Good.
1 year. And then
You're doing fine and good? What did you do to your head?
I got attacked
It is weird.
by
Like Prescott Valley was
Attacked by
the town I was from.
just so you know, I'm in charge
got in the
tonight.
closet, in one of the high closets, and I was looking for something, and all of a sudden, I didn't even see it coming.
Don't make me bang my gavel.
And I didn't think too much of it. And I caught it, and I stuffed it back up in there. And I'm working along there, and I felt something. I went, there's blood running down my forehead, and I'm going,
I figured Phyllis
that
was just gonna
damn metal part of that thing must have hit me. It wasn't the wood part. It must have just hit me just right, you know. Peeled out a chunk of hide. Nuts. First scar I've ever had on my gun.
Yeah, me too. Let me count the numbers.
I tell people, I said, you know, I said, if I ever go bald, I said, people are going to see the roadmap.
Oh, yeah.
I've had more stitches in my head than any place else in my body.
See the guy out there towards the very front on the left in the glasses. He's got somebody bent down talking to him right now.
Yeah, well, that's Joe Duffy, our finance guy that's kneeling down talking to him.
Okay.
He's the guy that has done our finance studies and that.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of his name right now.
Okay.
What's his name? Okay. He
I
can't
knew
remember.
he'd been here before.
Doing good.
Hey, listen, I have that. Yes, sir. But there was some information that was provided a budget. Our initial budget. Where we some days.
Yes, can you do just a quick flush? Absolutely. Okay.
We're gonna bring you guys up because continue so the seniors just some background information.
Cool, thank you.
They still have Lonnie wrong.
Yeah, they did.
Good. Are you gonna say hi?
Just a little bit of it.
I'll say if you rub it, you still be rubbing it.
Hi, Jack.
Hello, Mr. Mendoza. Have you got lots of questions?
No,
Okay, cool.
we're just gonna breeze right through this.
Guess who's in charge tonight?
Is that what that hammer is over there for?
You can have it if you want.
You get one, you better keep it. I don't feel perfect. I suspect he probably has one.
You want to be in charge?
What to do with it? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
No. You want to be in charge? I'll pass it off to you.
Were we going behind closed
Take
doors
note
to
of the
begin with?
public hearings. We do have to have a public hearing for the alcohol license and for the home rule. I think
Yes, sir.
is okay.
I'll actually pay attention this time.
We will be having our invocation in just a moment, so if anyone needs to leave, the invocation will be taking place in just a couple of minutes.
Ask the mayor for the timer, please.
Fine.
Did you want to do it?
No.
Okay. Turn like this, right?
Yeah, yeah. He does need schooling on that, doesn't he?
Stop it. Oh, shoot. Turn your phone off.
Already did.
You are a good boy.
In my bag.
For the invocation. Ready? We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Mr. Best.
Our Father who art in heaven, we humbly bow our heads before this council meeting. We're thankful for the opportunity we have to serve this community as elected officials. We ask that thy Spirit will be upon those in Brussels that are suffering from the attack of terrorism. We ask thee to protect our military who are there on site and also the first responders of that country, that they would be safe and be protected. We ask you to be with us as we conduct the business of this community, that we're able to have the discernment to guide and direct this town as we have been given that stewardship. We ask for these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. May we have the roll call?
You certainly may. Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Chuka.
Here.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here. Sorry.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
Vice Mayor Croft.
Here.
And Mayor Marley.
Here. According to our town code, the mayor is allowed to turn over the operation of the meeting, turn over the chair position to one of the council members if he so wishes. And Council Member Miller told me he could probably get the meeting done in less than half the time I usually get it done in. And so, Councilman Miller, you have the chair.
You weren't supposed to say that. No, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Introduction, presentations, and proclamations. Do we have any? No.
No.
Call to the public. Call to public is an opportunity for the public to address the council concerning a subject that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Individuals are limited to speak for 3 minutes. The total time for call to the public may be up to 30 minutes per meeting. Council action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date, or responding to criticism. Is there anyone that has wished to address council? Come up, please, sir. I better set my timer for you.
Good evening, council, mayor, and
Whatever.
chairman. What are we going to call you tonight, councilman? Anyway, thanks. I wanted to say thank you very much. Jack was at our last meeting at Simpo, and I just wanted to say welcome to him. And the other night was a very active team member and is getting into the groove of things for the council and for the city or the town of Chino Valley. But I wanted to announce that the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors is planning the 2016 cleanup, community cleanup, and it's going to be May 5th, 6th, 7th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 19th, 20th, and 21st, and I will give a copy of this to the clerk so she has all these dates, and it's free to all county residents. So if people want to clean up their yards and get rid of the different items and things like that, they can bring them up to the Paulden Transfer Station and deposit them there, and it's free of charge.
Cool.
Some of the items they can't bring in, though, is loose trash, no liquids, no hazardous materials, no NiCad batteries, no junk cars, no dead animals, and no commercial dumping. So, but it's free. Take advantage of it. I'll give us a break. Get everything piled up and ready to go in the next month or so, and then we'll be able to do that. I'll give this to Jamie.
Thank you. Any others? Yes, sir.
My name is Ronald Maines, and I'm a Chino Valley resident. This is regarding Ordinance 15-805. You will recall that that is a rezone of the windmill property to commercial light PAD. The ordinance had a lot of stipulations and requirements for both Lavacara Trust and the town. I have an interest in knowing how these stipulations were fulfilled, so I made a request to Development Services for the public records of such. On March 3rd, I submitted the required written request for those records. On March 8th, I received an email from Development Services saying that they would have the documents ready by March 10th. That didn't happen, so the following week I went to Development Services, and when the receptionist went to ask about the documents, I was told that Ms. Mayday was leaving for an appointment and would get back to me. That didn't happen, and it's just short of 3 weeks now, and I still have nothing. There's an event at the windmill tomorrow, so I assume all of the appropriate documentation requirements have been met. At this point, I can't help but think that I'm being stonewalled for some reason, so I'm asking for your help to resolve this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll have Mr. Smith look into that, please. Thank you. And if you would, Mr. Baines, if you would get your information to Mr. Smith so he can get with you when he gets the information. Anyone else? Okay, if that's all, we'll close the call to the public. Response to the public is an opportunity for the mayor to inform the public about how town officials address matters raised during call to the public at previous meetings. Mr. Mayor.
We had for response to the public, we had a comment regarding our sign ordinance. Development Services Department has begun an extensive outreach program on the upcoming sign code update. Beginning at the first of the year, the department has begun an in-office outreach with business owners, interviewed for a story in the Daily Courier, has advertised meetings for planning and zoning, has had one P&Z meeting, and has done outreach to the Chamber of Commerce. Upcoming steps include a survey to be posted on the Chino Valley website and sent to business owners, the creation of a working group for sign code updates as well as monthly updates at P&Z. There will be 2 public hearings at P&Z in June and July, and a tentatively scheduled final public hearing at Town Council on July 26th. That's it, sir.
Thank you, sir. Current events and summaries, reports. This item is for information only. The mayor and any council member or town manager may present a brief summary or report of current events or ask a staff member to provide the same. Presentation on information requests by the mayor and council will be made and questions answered. No action will be taken. The council have any? Yes, sir. Mr. Croft.
The Citizen Academy is meeting Thursday evening at 6:30 at the Fire Department Training Room on 3 North.
1133.
1133.
West Road 3 North. In Chino Valley, Arizona, 86323.
You let him say something and he goes wild. The agenda, shut up. The agenda is the fire district will be making a presentation, our police department will be making a presentation. Are we going to have the drug dogs? We'll have the drug dogs come in, and then our magistrate will be making a presentation. Thank you, finally.
Thank you, sir. Susie?
Nope.
Mr. Mayor?
No, sir.
Mr. Best?
No.
Okay. We did have a SIMPO meeting, as Mr. Brown mentioned, and I want everybody to know that the One North light is not dead, not a dead issue. It is going as fast as it can go. Okay. Mr. Smith, do you have anything?
No report.
I couldn't hear you. No? I'm sorry. Consent agenda. All those items listed below are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Any council member may request to remove an item from the consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. Does anybody wish to remove? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to pull item 6B.
6 Bravo. Any others? Yes,
Like
sir.
to pull 6A?
Any others? Okay, Jamie.
All right, we'll start with 6C then. Consideration and possible action to amend the Planning and Zoning Commissioner position description and selection process. 6D, consideration and possible action to accept the February 17, 2016 study session meeting minutes. And 6E, consideration and possible action to accept the February 23rd, 2016 regular meeting minutes.
Thank you. Will entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve consent agenda items C, D, and E.
Second it.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion passed. Okay. Do we do 6A now?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll bring up 6A, consideration and possible action to approve IGA agreement between Yapa County and Town of Chino Valley to provide electronic law enforcement records management and maintenance services. Funds to come from professional services line in the FY 2016-17 Police Department budget. Chief Wynn?
Just had a question on the raise from 10 to 15,000.
Yes, sir.
And where that rationale comes from. I understand the 3% per year, but just seemed like the 50% jump ongoing was
Right.
quite a bit at one time.
Well, this July will make 7 years we've been under the original agreement, and I'm not sure it was written prior to Ms. Smiley being here, and I don't know if that was something that was missed by the attorneys, but the contract the county has with Spillman, they have an increase of 3% a year. They pay Spillman. Along with the actual hard cost of the county, they provide, all the maintenance and upkeep on the system. If anything's wrong, they come fix it. They're also supplying us with another Aegis terminal. We'll have 4. And they actually supply the hardware as well as hook everything up. So it's a real bargain. And for us to have our own in-house system would be several $100,000 plus ongoing maintenance costs. So I know it sounds like a big jump, the 50%, but they told me their actual hard cost out of pocket of what we pay them that they pay to Spillman is close to $13,000. So they only have about a $2,000 buffer to cover all the other things they do throughout the year, when things break. And also this year we've added another module, which is evidence, so it'll tie all of our evidence management into that system, and they're not charging us any extra for that. It's just included in that price.
Okay, so what we should get out of that is the last 7 years have been a smoking bargain. And
We have gotten a
now we're
bargain.
coming up to speed.
Yeah, as a small agency, it's it just makes no sense for us to have our own in-house system, because we would be paying that 10 to 15,000 a year for maintenance, plus probably 200,000 to 300,000 to purchase the system up front. So it's a smoking deal.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the chief?
Yeah, we have to.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda item A.
Second it.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, consent agenda item 6B, consideration and possible action to approve the agreement for professional consulting services with Civil Tech Engineering Incorporated for the preparation of engineering construction plans for Old Home Manor Industrial Project in amount not to exceed $196,105 Funds to come from the EDA grant and accounted for in grants fund. Mr. Lopez. Mr.
Good
Mayor.
evening, Mayor, Council, and
Whatever, it's okay.
Jack.
That works.
I wanted to have the opportunity to get in front of you guys again. I know there was a little bit of heartburn last time I presented this to you all. We saw our original price jump from the one, I think it was around 198 range up to the $220,000 range, and by virtue of including some inspection services. That was a request that EDA had, so we had to pursue that avenue, and I may have jumped the gun a little bit bringing that to you before I had everything fully cleared with EDA. So one of the questions that was brought up last time was, are we around that range, that 10% range, and, are we still within that? And we were a little out, Mr. Mendoza, so I wanted to bring to you today the original budget that was approved by EDA outlining the actual costs for everything. So as you can see on this chart here, or budget here, we were approved for $140,000 for A&E fees, $40,000 for project inspection fees, so that puts it's roughly around $180,000 for A&E services. The original bid was around 198, so we were within that range. EDA allows us for a 10% fluff, if you will. We can go up or down with that, and not to exceed that. And that's where I may have jumped the gun a little bit before I fully understood where we were at. So when we went back to EDA with a $220 amount scope and fee from our A&E, they said, "No, hold up, time out. We're no longer within that 10% range." So got on the phone, talked to our A&E, discussed how we can make this work, and they came back with this new number of 196,105, which puts us within that range, puts us within that 10,000. We're in with that 10% area, and the 16,000 would then come out of the contingency fees of the 157 down below 842,000. So we will be pulling a little bit out of that, but we are now getting the inspection fees, inspection services, design consulting fees, and the like that satisfy EDA. We're staying within our budget, and we got that price down just a little bit better. So I just wanted to make sure you were all aware of that, and that we were working on that, and that we can sleep a little better at night because we know we get some good value from our engineers.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Was that all you had? Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. That answered.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Oh, motion to approve.
I'm sorry, I had an additional question for
Excuse me.
Michael.
Excuse me.
And I'm sorry. And actually, Michael, I went home after our conversation regretting that I didn't pursue this further.
Okay.
So I'm sorry that this is delayed, that I didn't have a chance to run this by you again. But I am having a problem with 7.11, and I really wanted to see, Mayor, if it's appropriate to have Phyllis reconfirm with us. What I'm having a problem with is the time frame of this contract with Civil Tech, and the reason is that we are under a time constraint on this WIF alone.
This one is a different loan.
Okay, so we do not have a 2-year time constraint.
We have a 5-year time constraint on this one.
Okay.
We have 5
And
years
then-
from when we got
okay.
the grant to complete the construction.
Okay, then I'm good, thanks.
Operating well within that. We anticipate, given the schedule we have, to have moving some dirt by the end of this year, November, December of this year.
Okay, then I'm good.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, sir.
No, we're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready if you're ready.
Motion to approve consent agenda item B.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action items. The town council may vote to recess the public meeting and hold an executive session on any item on this agenda pursuant to ARS subsection 38-431.03A3 for the purpose of discussion or consultation for legal advice with a town attorney. Executive sessions are not open to the public, and no action may be taken in executive session. Item 7A, consideration and possible action to adopt resolution number 16-1079, authorizing the refinancing of the May 1st, 2007 Greater Arizona Development Authority, GDA loan, and the 2010 U.S. Bank Series Pledge excise tax revenue obligation. And this is by Joe Duffy.
Yes, thank you.
Before you go into your, have you got like a presentation thing? Are you just here for questions?
For sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
I was just going to
Miller.
make a suggestion
Mr. Mayor.
since we were through the study session on this, and we had in our packet with a lot of information, we could just move to questions and then go on. But if you have something you want to say,
just
we'll
have-
let you.
I just have one quick item, and then I'm going to introduce Mr. Reeder to give us a very quick
Okay.
presentation on it. In our study session, we had the 2007 and GATA and the 2010 U.S. Bank series. We have decided not to do the 2010 series really because of tax consequences based on the property that we purchased. And I know Phyllis will be updating you later in an executive session on the reason for that. That was only a $500,000 amount. We're doing a little over $3 million on the GATA refinance, so it still makes good economic sense. Our savings is going to be around $250,000 or $280,000 just cash flow at $250,000 net present value. So it's still worth the effort and the expense to do it. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Reeder from Stifel Nicholas and Company. He is the manager director. I've known Mr. Reeder for quite a few years, and over the last few years since I've been here, I just quickly adding in my head, I think Mr. Reeder's and the work he's done with his firm has probably saved the town in excess of $1 million. So he is a good friend to the town of Chino
We
Valley.
like that.
So yes. So with that, I'll introduce Mr. Reeder.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Duffy, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. It's nice to be back up and have some, as Joe mentioned, some more really good news for the town. And I got a little handout that I think Joe had given you earlier. And, you know, we always want to remain vigilant of the town's outstanding debt. And obviously, if there's opportunities to refinance, we want to take advantage of that. So I do work hard for the town. I look for opportunities for you, and I think we found another one here that's going to make a lot of sense. I know you're aware of that. So in 2007, the town entered into a loan agreement with GATA to actually buy and build this facility, and there was some other municipal infrastructure. You got about $3 million left on it. You're paying about 4.90%. You're paying about $404,000 out of your general fund budget associated with what you currently have. And what we want to do is replace $490 money with bear with me, $225, $250 money. We're still in a very attractive market. We submitted the bids, I think, on Monday. We're going to let about 14 financial institutions submit bids. We're hoping to get, 4, 5, 6 of them on your behalf. We're hoping to get in that low 2 to mid 2% range. Bear with me. We'll work really hard and negotiate on your behalf. And if we're able to do that, we're going to get the bids, as mentioned here, on number 3C on April 19th. So they're on the street as we speak. If we're fielding questions, et cetera, we'll be able to get you, as Joe mentioned, about $280,000 in cash flow. We're going to take it equally over the next 10 years. So we're going to put about $28,000 back in your general fund net. Back to your general fund. We know you need the money. A lot of demands on a city budget. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I know you're going through budget season right now. So that'll help a little bit. About $225,000 of net present value savings. And that's about 8%. And if you remember when we went through this before, anything on a present value basis in excess of 3% is considered efficient. Right now we're in the 8% range. So that tells you net of all your costs. It appears to be a very efficient refunding if we can get the rates at the 2.25, 250 range, give or take.
And this includes all the fees of the people doing it and all that?
Yes, sir. All the numbers you're looking at are net of all the fees, and we're working real hard to keep those fees to a minimum.
Cool.
With that, I'm glad to answer any questions of the council.
Council?
Questions here?
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and thank you for moving me up on the agenda. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see you soon. Thank you.
We'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 16-1079, authorizing the refinancing of the May 1st, 2007 GATA loan.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 7B, public hearing regarding application from Tony Cordova for a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Windmill House located at 1460 West Road 4 North, Chino Valley. Consideration possible action to recommend approval for a new Series 12 liquor license for the Windmill House. We need to,
I make a motion to hold a public hearing.
okay.
Second it.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Does the public have any comments on this? All right, then we'll go ahead and close the public
Make a
meeting.
motion to close a public hearing.
I second it.
Motion been made and seconded to close. We'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve or recommended approval for the Series 12 liquor license for Windmill House.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign? I'm sorry. I've kind of drifted off to sleep there, excuse me. I kind of got out of order, didn't I?
You're
No, I
doing
didn't.
good.
I did good. Okay, motion carries, sorry. Phyllis, don't look at me like that. 7C, public hearing regarding resolution number 16-1078, proposing extension of the alternative expenditure limitation home rule option by Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Miller.
You almost said Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I know. Mayor, council, and Mr. Miller. I thought
We do a
I,
public hearing?
What's that?
We need to do a public hearing?
Oh, we have to open it?
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir.
Make a motion to open a public hearing?
Excuse me.
Second it.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, excuse me.
Mr. Miller, I have a brief presentation on the alternative expenditure limitation that I'd like to provide information to the public.
Okay, we're on a time constraint because I got to beat the mayor.
Okay, I will click fast. Essentially, the alternative expenditure limitation, and as the town knows, it's the home rule option that we go through every 4 years. It basically started in 1980 when the Arizona voters approved the Arizona Constitutional Article 20 and 21 prescribing the expenditure limitations for each county, city, town, and community college district. The purpose of the expenditure limitation was really to control expenditures and limit the future increases in spending. And the town has been under this expenditure limitation since 1985. The town's current option expires in June of 17, so this election will basically take us past that. The town has three options. One, we can be under the state limit, and I'll explain what that is in a few minutes. We can do a permanent base adjustment, which adjusts the amount, the original amount set in 1980 for the town up to where it needs to be today. Or we can do the home rule option, which is our recommended option, and that allows the town to set its expenditure limitation based on the projected revenues that come in every year. So basically it allows you as council to determine how much we can spend. If you look at all the other cities and towns in Arizona, most of them, 55 of the 91, do the home rule option. 25 have done the permanent base adjustment, and that they go out for election once, and hopefully they don't have to go out again, but if they start exceeding it, they may have to. So it could be a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year fix for them. And 11 of them are staying under the state expenditure limitation. So the real issue is that under the state-imposed expenditure limitation, the town can only spend about $8,500,000 next year, or in fiscal year 2017. The town projects that its revenues are going to be in excess of $19,688,000. So we're still going to receive the money, but we can't spend it. So it just goes in the bank. So the town really couldn't spend $11 million, a little over $11 million, or 57% of the revenue that we receive in the normal course of our business. So I did a quick little graph here. The red bars show how much we're projecting in revenues for the next 4 fiscal years, starting in 17-18. And the purple bar shows graphically how much the state expenditure limitation is. Now, under home rule, we're going to spend close to what that red bar is, but that's just our normal operating budget with our normal operating revenues. So I have a couple other charts that might graphically show it a little bit better. So real quick, I just want to explain the formula. What they've done is they give you, the formula is we take our current or our projected population in 2017-2018, and divide it by our population in 1978, which is 2,400. So we're 11,440 divided by 2,400. We get a population factor of 4.7 7%, which is really telling us that our population has grown 476%. Then they say, well, how much were you spending back in 1979, 1880? Well, then the town was really small, didn't have a police department, didn't have a library, didn't have a senior center, didn't have a rec center. They only spent $255,000. And they multiply it by that population factor and then throw in the inflation factor, and that's how they come up with a $3.5 million projected limit. Now, they also let us throw in a few things like debt service, our HERF money, any grant proceeds, any bond proceeds that we have. So we're able to increase that, but only up to $8.5 million. And so the thing that's wrong with this formula is it assumed every community would be static, that in 1979-80 they were built out, they weren't going to add any new services, they weren't going to do anything. Well, Chino Valley, as you know, we've grown dramatically since that time. We've added lots and lots of services. And so those additional services and demand for those services has made this expenditure limitation amount, it just doesn't work for our community. So here is a cleaner graph than we had in our study session, and that general government was general government and grants. That was the big number that really pushed it up. So I separated it. You can see the red bar. But here's the dilemma that council would face if it didn't pass. We would be able to spend the state limit, which is about $8.5 million, or about 43% of our budget, but we'd have to fit all those services into that box on the right. And I don't know how you want to do that, but it would be really hard squishing our government down to fit into that box. And we would have to cut dramatically in every area that we have. I mean, you would have water and sewer, public safety, well, there's half the box if you want to just keep those two things going. And everything else, recreation, senior center, road maintenance, it would either be eliminated or drastically reduced. So here's the difference, is under the state-imposed expenditure limitation, the state's in control based on an arbitrary 1980 formula. And the state sets our limit cap based on that formula. Under home rule, you have local control, so the local council that the community is elected determines how much we can spend every year. You guys, each budget year, set our spending cap. So. And then one primary thing, just to remember that even though the revenues will still be coming in, we'll still be receiving them, we just won't be allowed to spend them. So the money will be building up in the bank and we won't be allowed to spend them. So this is one of the slides that we'll put in our public presentations that we do out in the community. Basically, a yes vote will allow the town to set its spending cap based on actual revenues and local needs for the next 4 years. And a no vote will require the town to set its spending cap based on the state formula for at least the next 2 years. You can't go back for 2 years to the voters to ask them for a home rule after that. So we're stuck for 2 years. And we have lots of information. Jamie has put together quite a few pieces. We have mailings and pamphlet, and it's on the website. And then, of course, if anybody has any questions, you know, we're a phone call away. We'd be able to help them. So with that.
Yes. Could you entertain a or do you have questions?
I don't. Do we have public comment?
Yeah, I guess we could take public.
Okay. Would the public like to comment on anything that was said?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item D, consideration possible action to adopt resolution number 16-1077, amending the town's consolidated fee schedule related to public records, business license, and liquor licenses. This is from Jamie.
All right, good evening. This is the first two items that are on this fee schedule, this proposed fee schedule, are just fixes. One of them is to eliminate a public records transcription fee. Now that we record most of the things that people would ask for transcription for, we just figured it's better for everyone to hand them the disc. So, and the dollar amount that we had for it really wasn't realistic either. So after looking into it, we just decided it would be best to eliminate it. And then the refundable deposit fee for peddlers and solicitors had always been in our fee schedule. And then when we adopted this new one, somehow or other, that one got left off. So all we're doing is putting something back in that had been there. That was a good thing to have, because that ensures that you're going to get the materials back that the permit that you give to those peddlers and solicitors, so they don't try to use it beyond the date that they're allowed to use it. So we're putting that one back in. And then the liquor licensing fees, that is a complete restructuring. Currently, our liquor license fees range from about $150 to $300, depending on the type of establishment it is. And we kind of had a hard time figuring out how people came up with those numbers, because it was before any of us were here. And the only thing we could think of is it was semi-based on what the states, because the state has a fee schedule that is dependent on the type of license that they're issuing. But there were a lot of liquor licenses that weren't even on the schedule. So we got some new liquor license applications in, and we couldn't even charge them the standard fee for it. But then we started talking amongst ourselves, and we were thinking, well, is this fee really applicable to just somebody having a liquor establishment? Where does all the work come in? Where does the labor hours come in? And it really comes in when the application comes in, and it has to be routed, and we have to do background checks, and we have to check zoning and building, and then it comes to council. So what we decided to do was to go ahead and take all of these business fees and just back them down to the general business fee, which is $50 for all but a very few of our town businesses, and then enact a new fee for the processing portion. And for the most part, this is going to be better off for the establishments, because instead of paying $300 a year, they'll only pay $300 every time they have to submit an application or a change. And then it's just easy for them to pay the $50 a year. So that is what we're proposing to do. That processing fee is $250, and we base that on actual labor hours and comparing it with our local communities and other communities of the same size, using the same group of communities that we based a lot of our past budgetary comparisons with. So does anybody have any questions?
Questions, comments?
I think it's neat that we're actually lowering the cost.
Yeah.
It is. Any questions, comments? Motion?
That's good.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 16-1077, amending the town's consolidated fee schedule related to public record, business licenses, and liquor licenses.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Motion carries. Item E, consideration and possible action to adopt ordinance number 16-812, amending the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, Chapter 1, Administration and Procedures, Section 1.9, Review and Approval Process, Subsection 1.9.5, Citizen Review Process, changing requirements for neighborhood meetings for conditional use permits, zone changes, and planned area developments. Mr. Gardner.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Mr. Miller.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Tonight, I have before you a number of amendments to our Unified Development Ordinance. I put them all in one presentation so that it could go a little quicker. I knew you were coming
Here, wait,
tonight.
let me do this.
All right. First of all, why are we doing this? I wanted to kind of give you a background into what the thought process was for staff. The UDO is a living document. We work with it every single day in the Development Services Department, and we need to make sure that it's working for our customers as well as us. So as we work with it, we understand the outcomes that it produces. And when we don't like the outcomes that it produces and customers don't like those outcomes, we take a look at what it says and how we can fix that. We do it to align it with the outcomes that we want to see and to bring some common sense to governance. it's always tough to tell somebody we do it because it says so in the book. So we like to take a look at it and make sure we're doing common sense governance. The proposed amendments are up here on the screen. We'll have 4 proposed amendments. The first presentation will be with regard to Section 1.9.5, the citizen review process. We're looking at changing the requirements for neighborhood meetings and putting some of the impetus on the applicant. Currently, neighborhood meetings are held by the applicant, and Town of Chino Valley staff is required to attend those meetings, take notes, and just sit in the back, essentially. But we wanted to look at how that process compares with other places, the outcomes that we're having, and think about why we are inserting ourselves into that process. So I wanted to talk about how other communities do this. Prescott Valley has neighborhood meetings only held on major controversial topics. Staff will be present if it's deemed necessary, and I was told by the planner over there she tends to hide in the back at this. At Prescott, it's the same as above. The staff attends and states that they're only there to observe. That's what we do as well. Yavapai County actually doesn't have neighborhood meetings very often for zoning cases or conditional use permits, mostly because those are held in rural areas, and your neighborhood might be one other person. So that's sometimes the case, and staff generally doesn't attend those. In Sedona, I thought this was an interesting one, and it's a little different. Neighborhood meetings are actually held prior to application. They just say if your neighborhood meeting didn't go well, you probably don't want to make an application. So they actually complete that part of the process before staff even gets involved. So I thought that was an interesting comparison. I wanted to speak a little about transparency. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, this concern came up, and I wanted to address it. So some of the past occurrences in Chino Valley made citizens worried that government wasn't transparent enough. So there's a sensitivity here towards being transparent, and this proposed change will not change how transparent those meetings are. They're still able to attend. Anybody from the public is able to attend them. They are advertised in the Daily Courier at least 15 days in advance, and the property is posted with the proposed change of zoning or proposed use permit. That's part of the process now. It will remain part of the process. And the intent of the proposed change is really just to bring a level of flexibility and staff discretion to the process. We also wanted to think a little bit about how the optics are having staff at every single zoning meeting. That implies that we have a stake in the outcome of that rezoning or conditional use permit, and that whether we support it or not, it implies a little bit of support by having it here at Town Hall and having staff at every one of those meetings. Whether we say that or not, it's often not listened to. So, yeah. Up on the screen is our current language. I won't make you all listen to me read it out loud.
Thank you.
Basically, it says the applicant, after talking to the zoning administrator, gets a time and date from the zoning administrator for the neighborhood meeting, and it's a neighborhood meeting to allow the neighbors to give input on that process. The proposed language changes some of that around. The applicant actually sets the time and date of the meeting after consult with staff, so we still have a say in when that neighborhood meeting is. And the purpose of the meeting is to inform adjacent landowners and other potentially affected citizens of the substance of the proposed action. And adjacent landowners and other potentially affected citizens provided an opportunity to express any issues or concerns that they may have with the proposed zone change or use permit. So we're still giving neighbors and all potentially affected folks an opportunity to voice their concerns. They'll be doing that directly to the applicant, and if staff deems necessary, staff would be there as well. We want to stress that we would be using our professional judgment here, and if we think a topic will be controversial, we'll be there. We want to stress that fact. So the citizen review meeting basically would be held by the applicant, and the applicant would submit an affidavit as well as a written report of the outcomes of the meeting, and we would put that in our staff report to P&Z and council. This actually says a lot of what I just said, so I won't go over it too much. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Hi, James.
Hi.
I just wanted to clarify for the town of Chino that if anyone, because what this is basically doing is it's allowing the citizen that's requesting the zoning or CUP to submit an affidavit with what transpired during the meeting.
That's
correct.
Yes.
And I have concerns that citizens may get the impression that their meeting is put in the hands of this individual, that they may have concerns with the validity of what they report. I just wanted to have you clarify for me, if you could, that they will be also given ample opportunity to voice their opposition to the zoning or CUP or whatever is being transpired at the planning and zoning. This in no way diminishes their opportunity to speak there, correct?
That's 100% true. During the mailing and posting of the property, all of the letters are required to have staff name, phone number, and email address on them, as well as the posting. Those actually, we get a lot of comments from those postings. Most often it's just asking about what's going on in their neighborhood. So people do read those letters. They know that they can contact staff directly. They also are given the contact name of the applicant, so they can contact them directly. They are also able to come to the planning and zoning hearing or the town council hearing and voice their opinion. We have an ordinance that states that any written opposition needs to be in 3 days prior to the public hearing. But other than that, there are no restrictions on voicing your opposition.
Others? Yes.
Thank you for putting the perception, whether based in reality or rumor, down at the bottom, because that's huge. If we have staff there, then folks think that the town is involved in that part of the process.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
Any further comments, questions? Entertain a
No,
motion?
sir.
Huh?
I said no, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any, entertain a motion?
Do you have another part of the presentation?
I have another part of the presentation that's for
Oh.
the next agenda item. So
That's what I thought.
a motion would be appropriate at this time. Thank you.
For both?
Uno.
No, just for the first
This
one.
one.
Let's do both of them.
Oh, you have to vote one at a time, don't you?
I don't think so.
What if one's yes and one's no?
Oh,
It's your turn,
it can't be.
Phyllis. They're wanting to know if we can do both motions at once after he does the next presentation. Is that possible?
It's possible, but what's the point?
Okay. Make the motion.
I make a motion to approve Unified Development Ordinance Section 1.9 review and approval process by adopting ordinance number 16812.
Second it.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we're on G, right? G.
It's F.
We're on F. Sorry. Consideration possible action to adopt ordinance number 16-813, amending Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, Chapter 4, General Regulations, Section 4.22, Off-Street Parking and Loading, subsection 4.22.5, Parking Standards for Non-Residential and Mixed Use, subsection 4.22.5E, Joint Use Parking for PAD, and subsection 422.8, Determination of Required Parking, by deleting subsections B and H and renumbering the remaining sections to conform and amending the table. No wonder you don't want to run this meeting.
This is so much easier on my voice.
Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Once again, so the bottom three proposed amendments are here. I won't read them out loud for you, but
Thank you again.
basically, we're looking at our parking ordinance and trying to make a little more sense for development. So the first one we're looking at is UDO Section 4.22.5E, joint use parking for PADs. Currently, you can only have a joint use parking agreement with another parcel or another landowner if you're within a PAD. A PAD is a planned area development. We have a few of those in town, but they're essentially residential, so this actually doesn't apply to many properties in town. So this allowance doesn't really give developers much of a leeway to do a joint use parking agreement. Joint use parking agreement essentially allows for a developer to share parking spaces with the next door neighbor or somebody nearby if their businesses don't overlap in hours, and they can show that with a parking study that we then approve. So all we're proposing here is to strike the word for PAD from the title and strike for a mixed-use PAD from the body of the text. This would essentially allow for joint-use parking agreements outside of PADs as well as within PADs and extend the rights that are granted to PADs to the entire town. It would essentially allow for example, a breakfast bar or a breakfast restaurant and a bar and grill to share parking. Your peak hours for a breakfast restaurant are probably 7 or 8 a.m. Your peak hours for a bar and grill are probably 7 or 8 p.m. Those parking spaces aren't both needed, and if they can show us that through a parking study, we can approve that, and that would extend these rights to everybody in the town rather than just those with the benefit of a PAD. I'll move on to the next ones. Section 4.22.8 and H both establish maximum parking. They are contradictory, and using as many smart people as we could get, we figured out maximum parking for a lot, and all came up with a different number. So we're looking at striking both of those. The effect of these proposed amendments would basically remove the maximum cap of parking and get rid of those conflicting provisions. It would allow for some clarity in the UDO, as well as an approach that allows the market to dictate the amount of parking business owners provide. We would still have our minimum requirements, but if they wanted to add, for example, 5 parking spaces on their property and they were only allowed 5 in the first place, our current ordinance wouldn't allow that. And that business might suffer because of that. So what we're looking to do is say, business owners, if you would like to have more parking, it's allowable. In the case of somewhere that has 100 parking spaces and they want to do 200, we might steer them clear of that just through the technical review process. Typically, a parking space costs a very significant amount of money, and developers don't want to do more than the minimum. But if they do want to do more than the minimum, we would allow that in this case. And finally, we're going to look at our required parking spaces table. In our required parking spaces table currently, we're looking specifically at apartment complexes. So apartment complexes currently are required to have an RV parking space per 10 apartment units if the apartment has 5 or more units. To put that into perspective for you, a 100-unit apartment complex would have 10 RV parking spaces. That would require its own sewer system if it wasn't connected to the sewer system. And it would also essentially make the apartment complex owner run an RV park. What we're looking to do here is strike that provision, both from the apartment complexes as well as the townhomes and condominium complexes, and essentially just require the normal parking spaces that we require now. And we currently require an additional guest space per 10 dwelling units. We would like to keep that additional guest space. The reasons for doing this is pretty much a major burden to property managers. It gives them a number of things they have to worry about beyond running an apartment complex, which is already a really complex business. So they would have to enforce a time limit on how long an RV could stay there, which would be very difficult. If they wanted to have that RV removed from the premise upon the time expiration of that limit, their recourse for doing so is pretty onerous, and they would need to monitor the activity that's going on in the RV. You might have seen the show Breaking Bad. Bad things can happen in RVs. And the expenditure for the pavement of those spots is more than double a regular parking spot. They typically have to have thicker asphalt and thicker AB course under the parking, so it becomes very expensive very quickly. And in some cases, the turning radii and travel lanes actually have to be widened as well as the parking spaces to accommodate those RVs. So we would like to get rid of those, as we see them, unnecessary requirements in the parking ordinance. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Is a permit required to put in additional parking spaces?
A grading permit would currently be required. That would need to be looked at by engineering to make sure that runoff into the nearby stream doesn't increase too much and affect properties downstream.
So that's a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that it? Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve text amendments to Section 4.22 off-street parking and loading of the Unified Development Ordinance by adopting ordinance number 16813.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item G, consideration and possible action to amend Title 5, Public Works, Chapter 50, General Provisions, and Chapter 51, Waters and Sewers, modifying mandatory connection fees, among other things, by Ms. Mayday.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and Mr. Miller. Before you, you have the proposed amendments for Chapter 50 of the Town Code, as well as Chapter 51. Chapter 50 has been deleted in its entirety. We've made some amendments to Chapter 51. There's been an addition of a definition for wastewater treatment or a package treatment plant. Section 51.002, private sewer systems, has been amended slightly and expanded quite a bit. And then Section 51.135 talks about wastewater collection that's required. It's been divided into new development and existing development, and the modifications that staff and council have discussed have been included. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Question, comments?
I didn't have any.
We pretty well beat this one to death. I think.
Yes, we did, several times. All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 16815, amending Title 5 Public Works, Chapters 50 General Provisions, and Chapter 51 Water and Sewer Systems, and deleting 50.56 Effluent Collection, Treatment, and Recharge Policy.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Executive session, council may vote to recess to the regular meeting and hold an executive session which will not be open to the public for the following purposes. I got to read all this?
Yeah. You volunteered.
8A, item 8A, an executive session pursuant to ARS subsection 38-431.03A4 for discussion or consultation with the town attorney in order to consider its position and instruct the town attorney regarding the town's position regarding a contract with the city of Prescott related to acquisition of Prescott water facilities located within Chino Valley that is subject of negotiations. And then item B, an executive session pursuant to ARS section 38-431.03A3 and 4 for discussion or consultation for legal advice with the town attorney in order to consider his position and instruct the town attorney regarding the town's position regarding pending litigation and settlement discussions conducted in order to resolve litigation in the matter of Cortez versus the town of Chino Valley.
I make a motion that we take a 5-minute break and then recess into executive session.
Second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That's 5 minutes.
They took your mic away. That's not fair.
No one.
Nobody cares.
I gotta read more stuff on Corey. Oh shoot, what am I doing? I'm sorry, Corey. You're moving on up. Moving on out.
I'm so sorry, Corey. I apologize.
I'm flattered that you'd want my seat.
Okay, we ready?
Motion to convene the regular meeting.
Second?
Motion made and second to reconvene the regular meeting.
All in favor?
Well, he did it, so I'm just following along.
Okay, good.
So we're just back in, we just slap back in?
Yeah.
Back in? I don't really want to hit it hard. Okay, there'll be no action on the executive session, right?
I guess that's correct. No action, is that correct, Phyllis? What? No
Do we
action
state that
in
there's
the-
no action on the executive? Okay, well then we'll entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Jack, I
Two
got this
motions,
letter.
1 second. Done. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Okay.
Don't forget to take your letter, Jack.
What time is it?